Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Mighty Asian Movie Making Marathon 16th edition info session with a bonus talk with Aaron Au. I am Lynn Lee. I am the producer and director of MAMM, and I'm here to welcome you from the traditional unceded territories of the Coast Salish people, including the Musqueam, Tsleil-Waututh, and Squamish nations. And this month of the Indigenous Heritage Month, we would like all of us to think of how we as Canadians can really help our Indigenous neighbors and brothers and sisters for real reconciliation. So I am here to welcome you and to welcome everybody who has participated in MAMM before and also are curious about MAMM and don't know anything about MAMM. So let me start off by telling you what MAMM is. Mighty Asian Movie Making Marathon is the Vancouver Asian Film Festival's annual short filmmaking competition, and we are entering its 16th year in supporting, fostering, and showcasing emerging Asian and mixed Asian artists and filmmakers. The best 8 teams of 10-minute categories are selected from a lot of video pitches, and this year we also have a judging panel who will judge 1-minute shorts, micro shorts as well, and all the selected films will have a chance to enter into the final screening at our gala. And these finalists enter a 10-day filmmaking contest from production start to finish after receiving a masterclass level MAMM mentorship program, culminating with a screening gala and awards ceremony. We are really excited. For the first year, we have Telefilm Canada as MAMM16's presenting sponsor. So we would love to have the info session with you, and I will introduce you to our creative producers who will bring MAMM to you this year. But first, we would love for you to meet one of our judges, Aaron Au, who is our special guest speaker for this evening. Aaron is the director and production and development at Brightlight Pictures, Inc. Aaron is a Chinese-born Canadian who started his career in 1998. And after finding success as an actor and stuntman, he moved into production in 2008. Since then, he's produced everything from indie features to network series, with his most recent credit being Firefly Lane for Netflix. Aaron was a MAMM 7th or 2011 alumnus and one of our judges this year. He will share insights to why he did MAMM and how he used it as an opportunity to further his film career. So you will be learning from him some career-changing wisdom and to get most out of this competition and making short films, and on how to submit your pitch and diving into the short filmmaking process. So I would like to welcome Aaron to the stage.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for the introduction.
Yes, and we'd love to hear from you, and I will hand it over to you to talk with everybody. Please stay for the talk, and then there's going to be a time for Q&A with Aaron. And then I will be introducing all our creative producers, and we will give everybody some information, key information about the competition, how to enter, and we'll go from there. Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you. Hello, everybody, and thanks for joining in. My name is Aaron Au, and as the awesome introduction told everyone a little bit about my background. Yeah, I started in film in the 90s as a stunt guy, and my real desire was to be a filmmaker. But of course, I didn't really know what to do and know how to do it, so I was able to get into stunts. And I used my stunt career to learn the filmmaking process. And eventually, I decided to move away from that. So I started making short films. I started making, you know, even just little videos. And I'm talking pre-YouTube stuff. But it started for me. I wrote a short film that I wanted to write and direct, and I pitched it around to producers. And at the time, nobody would produce me, so I decided that I would learn to produce myself. And the project was called The Tea Master, and it was an adaptation of a Japanese fable called The Tea Master. So I pitched it around. I applied for all the funding and all that kind of stuff, and I got Bravo Fact, which was amazing, and we shot that short film. After that short film, I had something that happened to me that happens to a lot of filmmakers, and this was a relatively large short film for, you know, a first short film. Back then, we shot it on the Red camera, which was the newest thing. It was actually the first Red in Vancouver, and the first project shot on the Red. But I got burnt out, and I was like, great, I did a short film, it's out in the festivals, and I kind of sat back. And I realized after a while that I had to kind of keep going. So I kept making short films. Whether we had financing or not, we would just go out and shoot, which a lot of people these days do, which is amazing. Like, you know, back then we didn't have a cell phone that could shoot, you know, a movie on. We had to have special cameras, and we had to rent special equipment for editing and all that kind of stuff. So today, you know, it's so much easier to do. But you know, I did a couple of short films, and we ended up doing a couple film competitions and that kind of stuff. And it was kind of short film after short film. And then I realized, you know, I kind of wanted to move into the feature world, and I joined another company called Brightlight Pictures, and I did a couple features there. That kind of transitioned me to Brightlight Pictures, where I'm at now, where I'm developing my own projects for the company, and I've been working for some of the major studios. So that kind of is my little journey. When it comes to MAMM, I have a very interesting story. So I had done some film competitions. I'd been involved with 𝐘𝐨𝐿. I hadn't done my own, but I had helped on some projects. I had done the 48-hour film festival, and I didn't like the time restraint. And one of the problems that we had with a lot of the projects that we had done in these film competitions was that we were trying to do too much. We were trying to do all this crazy big stuff. And again, coming from stunts, we were doing a lot of action and things, and it was just too much for the allotted time. For example, me and a bunch of guys, we did the 48-hour film festival, and we filmed for 24 hours, and we cut and posted for 24 hours, and then we all got pneumonia. And we got super, super sick, and we handed a film in that was horrible. And that's our fault. That's not the film competition's fault. That's our fault for going too big. And that's kind of one of my first pieces of advice is look at what the competition is and what the restraints are, and try to work within it so that you don't screw yourself like I did. So when MAMM came around, Kevin Lee, a producer and who is also big with VAF, approached me and said, hey, I want to enter this competition. And I immediately said no. And luckily, Kevin was persistent, and he invited me over to his place. We had a barbecue, and we started spitballing some ideas. And he came up with this idea that really struck me, and I felt great about. And I said, look, let's write this and figure out if we can do this, and make sure that we can do it and tell a beautiful story within the time that we have. So we ended up writing and doing the anniversary, which was about 4 people sitting around a table. And for me, the part that I wanted to work on as a filmmaker was how to tell a story with 4 people sitting at a table, nothing else. So to me, that was the challenge. And then of course, there's the time constraint of doing it within the time. So what my advice is to the filmmakers out there who are looking to do MAMM is don't overdo it. Really just try to focus on a story that is doable within the time, that you're not gonna, hinder yourself and kind of shoot yourself in your foot, because you're gonna spend a lot of time, a lot of energy and doing this film. So, start off on the right foot. So when it comes to short films, like, I'm a lover of short films. If I could do short films for a living, I would do short films for a living. I absolutely love them, but they're this really interesting thing because they're the stepping stone towards a film career, whether you want to be a feature film director or a writer or a producer, or you want to work in television, all that kind of stuff. But they're also seen as an art, which they are. Now, when you're choosing what to make, my advice is to, in the beginning of your career, you can do short films because they're art and your experience experimenting and trying things. And those are great things because you want to do that. You want to learn and you want to try, and it's okay to fail in those. But when you're starting to say you've done a couple and you're really starting to get out there and say, okay, I want to make a short film that, helps me get out there. Usually the goal is I want to do a short film that does festivals and then it's going to win me awards, and then hopefully I can get recognized and sign in with an agency, and then I'm off to the moon. That doesn't happen very often, and that's the reality of it. So what I tell people is that if you're going to make a short film, try to gear it towards something that's a bigger idea, and think of it as a demo reel or a pitch piece or a piece of your resume for you. So what is it that makes you special, and how is your storytelling special for you that you can show within a short film? So even if it doesn't go into any film festivals and doesn't win any awards or anything like that, if you're to send it to a company and an executive like myself, can I see who you are and what you're trying to say within your short film? So again, the question to ask yourself is, I have a story, I want to tell it, but how is that going to help me with my career? And that's one of the bigger things, again, with what I'm doing right now with looking for younger talent and helping develop projects, is it's always about how do you move your career forward. And with everything going on in the world today, with everybody seeking more Asian stories, which is an amazing thing, but how do you kind of climb that ladder and set yourself up for success? So what I'm saying is, I know how much work and how much time and how much blood, sweat, and tears goes into making a short film. Just think about how it can work for you in the future. It is really what it's about. Festivals are great. A strong festival run is the dream. Getting recognition there is the dream. But my thought now is that is like winning the lottery. So if you can make a short film that is going to really kind of catapult you when you're sending it to an executive, when you're sending it to a producer, and even when you're sending it to Telefilm for, a feature idea, you say, hey, this is the feature I want to do as my first feature on the, first feature program. Here's a short film I did that tells that story. Then they can look at it and go, oh, this person has a strong voice. They can pull it off. We see what it's going to be. And it's so much easier. So, when it comes to what you're making, that's kind of what I tell everyone to gear for. Some things when it comes to specifically about your short, one thing that I've noticed with a lot of short films is that because it's short, people tend to try to start their story in the middle. And, which is great because it creates some questions about story and stuff like that. But then usually what happens is they spend the rest of the film trying to explain the beginning and then trying to circle back to the end. A short film, even though it's short, can still have 3 acts in your proper structure, like a feature film. So that's one of the things that I try to tell people is, be careful starting in the middle. It's okay to follow a feature film structure. And if you can, even if it's a 4-minute short or a 5-minute short, that's a great thing, because then, for me as like an executive, if I see a short film that has a proper story structure, I'm more pulled into it. I'm more captivated by it. And I can see, oh, this person knows how to tell a story. Something that's unique to short films these days, that's part of the way media is going, is it's like Netflix and TV and new series and new features and stuff like that. One thing to think about with a short film, that you probably wouldn't have thought about, or I wouldn't even say to think about 5 years ago, is you want to hook your audience early. And this is a Netflix thing. So Netflix has this thing that for a TV series or even a movie, you have 12 to 16 seconds to hook your audience. 12 to 16 seconds. Because if you don't hook them, they're going to change to another show. So think about that when it comes to your short film. And not to say that you got to throw it all out there early, but do something that creates questions. Why do I want to watch this further? What is the show going to be about? What is that? You open with, a wolf walking across a field, and it's like, where is this wolf going? Anything to create questions up front instead of just setting up is going to be more powerful for you as a storyteller, but also in the business sense of, for me, if I'm an executive looking at projects and I have 15 projects on my desk with, all these short films and demo reels, I may not have time to watch every one if they're 10, 15 minutes long. So if I'm not hooked in the first minute, I may not get to the rest of it. So the mentality of, showrunners and filmmakers and writers and stuff that are pitching to, Netflixes and the Amazons and the Hulus are all about hooking first and then telling and drawing people into the story. If you can do that with a short film, I think you're going to have a step up above everybody else. So that's something to think about when you're developing, when you're writing, and when you're getting into your short film. That'll also help you when it comes to developing for, a Netflix show, and you're pitching to Netflix and they say, well, what's your hook right off the top? And if you don't have that answer, then they're going to go, well, nobody's going to watch your show, no matter how great it is or how big your stars are. If you don't hook them off the top and create questions, you're kind of dead in the water. Some notes about production. Again, understanding the work kind of realm that you're in, whether it be 48-Hour Film Festival or MAMM or Crazy 8s or whatever. But like with MAMM, it's like, okay, I have this amount of time. Make sure that you can work within that time. And that's a great thing. And again, why I really appreciated doing the MAMM after I kind of shied away from film competitions was because it taught me how to work within a structure and work within a time frame. Because when you get into the professional world, that's all it's about. You've got your delivery date, you have to deliver at that time. So there's that pressure there no matter what. And yes, the indie world is great because it's like, oh, I need more time, I'm going to shoot, and we don't have to deliver to festivals and all this kind of stuff. And that's the dream, and that's nice for the indie world. But the goal is to work in the professional world where you're producing for a studio or you're directing a movie for MGM or whatever it is. There's time constraints, and it's good to get used to it in your early parts of your career. The one big thing I can tell you about short films and film competitions that you should focus on that a lot of people don't, and it hurts them way more than they realize, is sound. I always tell people that sound is 50% of the experience. And I was told that by a filmmaker. And when I started realizing that and acknowledging that and watching films and listening to what's going on, I decided to even make a short film where there wasn't any dialogue, but a lot of the sound was part of the storytelling. So if you don't record good sound, and not to say that your sound design has to be part of the storytelling, but even the basics, if your dialogue isn't clear, if there's static, if there's background noise, if there's anything like that, it immediately, no matter how great your visuals are, no matter how amazing your storytelling is, bad audio will kill your film. So just as a reminder, focus on that. If your sound guy says, I think you need another one because we can get better audio, my suggestion, do it again. So the next thing, sorry, I'm just gonna go to some notes. Pitching. So pitching is a skill that really doesn't have anything to do with filmmaking. And it's one of those funny things that you kind of have to learn. Some people are great at it and some people are not. And some people that are not great filmmakers or storytellers who are great at pitching get their projects greenlit because they're great at pitching. Some people who are amazing storytellers and filmmakers and writers are horrible in the room and they don't get their projects made. So I am currently pitching a project that I've written and developed, and I'm relearning how to pitch, and I'm relearning how to talk in a room, and I'm relearning all these skills that are really outside of the film industry that we forget is a big part of our industry. So the great thing with MAMM is that there is a pitch portion to this. So my advice to young filmmakers is study pitching as if it is a subject matter that's like math in school. It's like you feel like it's not going to do anything for you in the long run. Not math does do a lot for you in the long run, but pitching is super important. There's great books out there. There's 1,000 videos on YouTube out there. Be confident in what you're talking about. Know how to pitch, because a pitch can make or break you. And so that's one big thing. On the other side of verbal pitching, a pitch package and that kind of stuff is also very important. One of the examples for me, and a lot of filmmakers are going to be doing these, funding submissions and stuff like that. When I did my first project, the Tea Master, I had no idea how to produce. I had no idea how to apply for funds. But what I knew was that I wanted to tell these funders that I am 100% ready to go, aside from their money. So for the Tea Master and Bravo Fact, I submitted a 42-page application. And they called me back and said, we don't need all this stuff. And I said, I don't care, just take it. I want you to see everything. I had storyboards, I had budgets, I had schedules, I had location photos that we had scouted. Like, we were ready to go. And all that prep helped me get the money. And they even told me after, we've never seen a package this big, but it showed that I was ready. So anything you can do to kind of go the extra mile, these days, whether it's shooting an extra video or doing a promo, or recently I had a great pitch from a filmmaker who dictated her pitch in a little video. And to me, that stood out because it was personal. For one, I didn't have to read another pitch document because I read them all day. I had somebody reading it to me. And not only was she reading it to me, there was passion in her voice, and she was a storyteller. And I could tell that she felt this story, and in turn, I felt this story. So anything that you can do that's a little bit out of the box to help you stand out is something that I think is important. So again, this starts getting into the business mindset of filmmaking that's going to help you go from short films to maybe it's to web series or to feature films or to pitching for series. So that's kind of the next topic I wanted to talk about, is the difference between indie film and, we can call it professional film or whatever. There's this mentality, especially in Vancouver, that Hollywood is the bad guy. That domestic film and Canadian film and Vancouver film and Asian film kind of lives in its own world. But we all want to make that a Hollywood movie. We all want to make that HBO series. We all want to be there eventually. So my advice to young filmmakers is to think about, if that's your end goal, and the goal is the important part, is setting the goal, how are you going to build yourself towards there? And don't think that it's going to happen overnight. Don't think that it's going to be, I'm going to make a short film and, somebody's going to see it and Netflix is going to pick me up and then I'm going to make a movie. Again, that's like winning the lottery. You have to acknowledge that it's a long game. I wanted to be a filmmaker and a writer-director at 22. By 25, I was a stunt guy and whatever, and I said, okay, I wanted to, make a living off of being a writer, director, producer. I had some mentors in the industry, that were in their 40s and 50s, and they were blunt and real with me, and they said, look, you're 25. you probably won't be making a living off of writing and directing until you're 40. 15 years. For me at that moment, I was like, I'm not going to wait 15 years. I'm not going to slave and make short films and make indie features and work for 15 years. To me, it was kind of mind-boggling. But then the reality set in of like, yes, it takes some experience, and yes, it takes knowledge and connections and all this kind of stuff. So instead of 15 years, I set myself a limit of 10 years. I said, in 10 years, I want to be making a living off of being a writer, director, and a producer, and I want to retire as a stunt guy. And I'll tell you, at the 10-year mark, I wasn't there. I had made a couple of features that I didn't make money off of. I lost money. I had made, of 7, 8, 9, 10 short films. I had done web series, but I wasn't making it. And I was frustrated and I didn't know what to do. But I kept going because to me, I was close. And luckily, that's when I joined Brightlight Pictures, where I got all these different opportunities to do different things. And again, like this is where I talk about the crossing of the indie world to the professional world. So before I joined Brightlight, I wanted to be a writer director, and I was okay, and I wanted to be an indie producer because I love doing that. I love putting things together. I love working with creatives. I had zero desire to be a line producer. Now, for those of you who don't know specifically what a line producer is, it's somebody that's hired to run the production, but not necessarily in a creative sense. It's the budgeting, it's the crewing, it's the day-to-day logistics, it's the contracts, it's the hiring, it's all that kind of stuff, which is really what our industry in Vancouver is built off of. So when I joined Brightlight Pictures, they brought me in as a creative executive to develop my own projects under the Brightlight banner, using Brightlight as kind of my, to help me open the doors for things, which was great because it did. It got me into markets, it got me into festivals to meet people and stuff like that. But again, I had never thought of being a line producer. But then the opportunity to line produce an indie feature came up. And because the indie feature was with this amazing writer-director, I took the opportunity. And that turned into another feature, and that turned into being network approved to line produce. And I produced a pilot for Sony, then I produced a pilot for Fox, and then I got on a Netflix series. So meanwhile, this entire time I was focusing on line producer, I was no longer being a creative. But that was okay to me because I was opening doors on the professional side. Now you can open those doors, again, my example is through line producing, but you can open those doors through being an actor or being a camera guy or being a cinematographer or, being a producer's assistant or a director's assistant, where you work yourself up in the professional world so that when the opportunity comes to pitch something on the creative side, you get that. So I'm 5 years into my career at Brightlight, and I'm just now have the opportunities to call up Sony or to call up Fox or to call up Netflix and say, hey, we've got this project. And that's paid off for me because I was willing to go work in a different field that complemented what I was doing. So what I'm trying to say out of this is to, don't, how do I say this? Don't be afraid of climbing the ladder in the professional world. One of the things that we say over here in production is be nice to everybody. And the reason being is that PA standing in the parking lot, checking in the cars, will one day be my boss. So that could be you. And there's 100 stories of that happening in this industry. So don't feel like, oh, I don't want to take the long road because I want it now and I think I can do this. You can still make films, you can still do short films, you can still build your career, but how do you subsidize that and how do you climb the ladder on the other side and get those bits of experience and knowledge in the professional world? And the added bonus that if you're working, you're actually getting paid. So if you're on set, you're getting paid, you can pay attention to what's going on, you can learn people, you can network. Essentially, you're getting paid to learn. And that's one of the things that I think is the most valuable thing about our industry, is that you can get paid to learn. that kind of goes into the whole thing that I talk about kind of thinking big picture. One thing I want to talk about is what's going on right now with the Asian industry. The beautiful thing right now is the door is open. Finally, the door is open. So an example of this is 10 years ago, I saw a play and I wanted to adapt that play into a TV series. 10 years ago, there was no way that anyone would have looked at a TV series about four Asian guys, sorry, specifically four Asian guys, a comedy about four Asian guys. There was no way that anyone would have looked at it. Nowadays, people are knocking down the door for this project because, again, there's the Crazy Rich Asians, there's the Fresh Off the Boats, there's the Kim's Convenience, which has its own issues that we all are somewhat aware of. So the thing that I'm telling everyone right now is the time. Tell your stories, find what your voice is, really focus on that. There's this amazing saying that I just picked up from a producer in LA who's got a first look deal with CBS, and he's got projects on Hulu and all this kind of stuff. And he's just really smart. These are the guys behind Woke, if you haven't seen it, which is actually doesn't air up here, but it's on Hulu in the States. But he said the stuff that they're looking for are the stories about the diverse people within diversity. And it's interesting because I've developed a show to me that's about the minority within the minority. So it's not just about Asians in general, it's about the specific thing about someone or something in that culture. So that's really what people are looking for right now. So if you can focus on that as an individual storyteller and what your specific niche story is and tell that of how it relates to the rest of the world, I think you've got something to start on. So my advice for storytellers when you're thinking about what to tell is to find that kind of thing. Find your voice within your story and really, really focus on that. I see a really cool question up here. What is your advice to a person who wants to become a producer? This is funny, and I'm going to call out Joshua, who is on this, who works with VAF. Joshua and I had a virtual coffee, and I said to Joshua, I said, what do you want to do? And he said, look, I know everyone wants to be a director and everyone wants to be a writer, but all I want to do is help people kind of bring stories together. I want to help elevate people. I want to find stories. I just like putting things together. And I said to him, you're a producer. So if you want to be a producer, it's one of those things that you just have to go be a producer. How do you be a producer? You go find a story that you want to help tell. You go find a director that you want to work with. You go find a writer that you want to go work with. Maybe an actor who is, worked his way up and, maybe you find a project for him and, you went to high school with Ludi Lin and you give him a call and say, hey, I have an idea for a feature that I want you to star in and maybe you can direct. Being a producer is essentially being an entrepreneur. You're a business person. There is no school that you can go to be a producer. It's about going out and doing it. You're putting all the pieces together. You're figuring it out as you go, but it's really about finding a story, finding the creatives, finding the people, and then going out and getting funding. Or not even getting funding and just going out and shoot your project and calling in favors and, crowdfunding and doing all that kind of stuff. But if you've never produced anything and you want to be a producer, I would definitely say start with short films and start with something like MAMM, where you have a deadline, you have a little bit of support when it comes to what you can and cannot make and all that kind of stuff. And, cut your teeth on something like that where you're learning and you can use that to catapult your career to something bigger, whether it's going to do a web series or another short film or something like that. When you go to apply to the grant, you can say, hey, I did this film competition. We pulled off this film in, 7-8 days or 10 days, on a tight budget, and it ended up winning. So that's really the best way to become a producer. It's one of those things that there's no definitive answer to say this is how you do it. yeah, you can go to school and learn some of the stuff, but honestly, it's going out and doing it. The only other thing that I can say if you want to be a producer is to look to be a producer's assistant or some sort of assistant that has to do with producing. Or if you can, maybe you come up in the production management side where you're learning how to physically produce a show and then move into line producing and then eventually into creative producing. That's another way. So speaking of assistants and stuff, the interesting thing in the Canadian system is that there really is no built-in system that brings people up. In Hollywood, there's the big time producers, and then they have their assistant, and then even sometimes the assistant has an assistant. That assistant is given full access to this producer. So they sit in executive meetings, they sit in all the stuff, they're included with everything, and then they're slowly given tasks that are part of producing. There's room in Hollywood because Hollywood is so big to do that. In Canada, it doesn't really work that way. A lot of the top producers have assistants and they keep them at that. They're there to make the phone calls, they're there to make the schedules. They don't give them those opportunities. One of the great things that I found at Brightlight is that we've adopted the Hollywood system. We have 2 line producers in this company that used to be assistants to the president. So they've worked their way up and now they're line producing. So for me, that's kind of something that I'm looking to do as well, is that, I'm looking to find, assistants or people who are even looking to intern or something like that they can come in and learn the process, see what it's like to deal with the network, see what it's like to deal with a big machine and all that kind of stuff on the day-to-day, so that they're better equipped when it comes to moving forward in their career. And then of course, when you're in the door with a company and a producer, and you say, hey, I have this idea and I have this short, or I want to do this thing, then you kind of have this natural, support group to help you make your project. Sorry, I'm just going to read if there are any other questions. Yeah, so do we have any other questions that we want to feed through? Here we go. What are my thoughts on maintaining work-life balance? Ha! This is a good one. Okay, so I don't know if they're still on, but I think my wife and my 3-year-old son are watching this, which made me super nervous. Honestly, it's a very, very, very difficult thing, and I'm learning to try to do it. But if you want to be a producer, my hours are 24/7. When you're on a show, you're 24/7. When you're producing an indie, you're 20,007. Like, there's no off time. You're constantly working. That's just the nature of the business. If you want to do a 9 to 5, where you want to go out and hang with your friends in the evenings and you want to have your weekends off and stuff like that, honestly, this is probably not the industry for you, or these are not the roles for you. There's a lot of people who want to be filmmakers, want to be producers and directors, and they're not willing to do that, and they want to have that balance. So my advice is, in the beginning, there's no balance. Work your butt off, commit 100%. Of course, you can go have fun and live a life and stuff like that. When you're up and coming, there comes a point where you have to commit and you have to be there all the time. And it's a struggle. Like, I worked, I think it was 2 years going from show to show to show with some overlap and all this kind of stuff. And there was occasional times where I can get away for a week and go on a vacation with my family. And then it's like disappear for, 9 months. My son's first steps, I was in a big production meeting and I got a video of his first steps. Like, I missed out on that. But that's the sacrifices that you have to make in this industry, because it is all consuming and it requires that. And it's just a fact of the business. Now, if you don't want to live that life, then you can, go work as a camera operator or something where your definitive hours, you get your weekends off and that kind of stuff. But honestly, I don't really have the answer to that. The light at at the end of the tunnel is once you've established yourself, there is a world where you're like, okay, I'm going to do a project and then I'm going to take 2 years off. You know, I'm going to develop a project and slow down and spend some time. You know, and luckily I've done that since mid-October. I've taken time off. You know, I'm not producing a show, I'm not making money, but I'm developing projects that I want to work on and doing that kind of stuff. So there is a work-life balance that comes, and yes, you can define it how you want it, but honestly, you have to sacrifice. If there's no sacrifice, it's very hard to make it. The second that anyone gets a glimpse of, oh, well, that person's not committing, I'm here all the time, putting in the time, and that person's not, it's just really hard to kind of move forward. So I wish I had a better answer. I wish there was more life balance, but I think once it pays off and once you get to where you want to be, then you can figure out how to have more of that and you know, hopefully salvage the life that you've kind of screwed up for a while. Barbara, great question. Are we looking for pitches? Yes, I am always looking. That is my primary job, to look for projects. And one thing I want to say to everyone here, if I haven't met you, I want to give you my email address, which I'll post in the thing here. And I want you to reach out and introduce yourself to me. Think of this as a networking event, and I know we haven't had one of those in a long time, but this is me walking around the room, introducing myself to all you young filmmakers, giving you my card and saying, hey, let's have coffee. One of the things that I've been doing recently, again, with a project that I'm developing, is that I was looking for young writers, I was looking for young filmmakers, and I was having a hard time finding them, which is what brought me back to VAF and what brought me back to MAMM, because, you know, if we don't start at the bottom of the grassroots and look for new talent, then we're not going to find it. So thank you. There's my email address. Please email me. Tell me about yourself. Tell me, you know, send me links to your projects. I'd love to have coffee with you, whether it's you want to be a producer, a writer, a director, or whatever it is. I want it to be known that I'm accessible, and that if you have any questions, I'm here. I'm super available right now. Obviously, if I get on a show, it might be a little crazier and it might take me a while to get back to you, but I'm going to make an effort to get back to everyone, so that it, you know, for one of the things for me was when I was an up-and-coming filmmaker, I had nobody to ask questions to. I had nobody to really give me advice. I want to be able to give people advice. So if I can help you skip a step, or at least transition through a step, you know, I want to be able to do that. The question about mentors. Yes, I did have some mentors in the sense of there were some directors like Peter DeLuise, who was kind of a mentor to our entire industry, who I'd worked with over the years, who I can call once in a while. You know, Sean Williamson, the president and a producer at Brightlight, has been a friend and a mentor for many years. I'll be honest, it's because we play hockey together and I got to know him, and I would say, hey, I'm producing this, and what do you think of this? And, you know, and that's eventually how I joined the company, was because I got to know him. I never really had a mentor that I could turn to and say, I'm stuck, I need to move forward in my career, what do I do? And that's why I want to reach out to the young filmmakers and say, hey, if you have these questions, hit me up. You know, a 15-minute coffee to answer a couple questions, or even if it's just emails or WhatsApp or whatever, you know, like if I can help, I'm going to help, because I didn't get that, so at least I want to pay that forward. Is there a certain project that you are drawn to? That's a great question. So right now, I am predominantly looking for Asian-led stories, of course. One of the things for me personally, when it comes to Asian stories, I gravitate more to stories that are a little bit more general that are Asian stories than and it's, that's not the right way to say it. I want stories that are about Asians that are not necessarily about Asians. And specifically, like, I know that the stories about Asian struggles and racism and all that kind of stuff is important to tell, But it's at the point right now where the world and the media is accepting of Asian faces and accepting of Asian stories. So instead of telling stories about the struggles that we've gone through and fighting this and fighting racism, which is what the news is about right now and what's going on in the real world, I want to find stuff like Crazy Rich Asians, and I want to find stuff like Kim's Convenience and Fresh Off the Boat, where it's about people living their lives. And honestly, if you put a white family in there, yes, the dynamics of how they live and how they react would change, but you'd still have a show. And to me, that's more important, because to me, that's showing the world that we're just like you. Because that's the reality. We're all the same. Yes, we have a little bit different things. You know, we take our shoes off when we come into the house, and, you know, we eat different things and we celebrate different things. But there's nothing different between us and the other family. You know, we still laugh the same. We still hurt the same. We still want to get married. We still want to have kids. We still, you know, all these issues that are universal. That's really what we're looking for when it comes to stories is, yes, it's unique to Asians, but there's something universal about it, because that's how, you know, I use this example of the series that I'm developing. I want to show how Asian guys are in real life. We're not triads, we're not the geeky scientists, we don't all know kung fu. I just want to show that we're real people and that we have real problems just like you. And that's really what I'm looking for at the heart of stories, is that there's a universality of it, but it is still unique to the Asian culture and the Asian, you know, stories. So I'm just doing a quick read. If you guys want to pop one up. What's a natural transition for an indie producers who want to move on to short films into something bigger, and what's the best path? That is a great question as well. So again, Telefilm has an amazing program called Features or First Features or Features First. That could be one. But honestly, there's a lot of people who make a lot of short films, and they make short film after short film after short film. And that's a great thing to do because you're practicing and you're learning. But at some point, when do you go out and make a feature? More so today than ever, you can go out and make a feature. It may take you a year to film, or you may just block off a certain amount of time. But you can get a camera, you can cut it on any computer, you can shoot it on your phone if you want. And many famous filmmakers have done that. When people ask me, when is the time to go make a feature film? I tell them it's now. That's really all there is. You've got to take that next step. And it's hard, and it's, again, a lot of sacrifices have to be made. But if you never make that step, you're always going to kind of be in this world where it's like short film after short film after short film. And again, I encourage people to make short films because they're important. But you have to decide as a filmmaker and as in your career and as a business person, when do you take that next step? Here's a question from Jenny. When do you find a project you want to develop? Do you have to make it under Brightlight? What if Brightlight doesn't like the project? Interesting. So one of the great things about Brightlight is, you know, I kind of get my own, you know, we get choice. There is a team here, and there are, you know, we have a new VP of development who is an amazing person who comes from sales and acquisitions and distribution and all that kind of stuff. It's one of those things that if I'm truly passionate about something, I'm going to fight to do it. And at a certain point, you know, if it doesn't work on a business sense and there's no way to put it together, and I'm dreaming, then there may be a world where I can't do that project under Brightlight. But it's not because somebody hates it or something, but because on the business side, it just doesn't make sense. And I'm not saying business side that we're not going to make money off of it. It's just, it may not be something that we can put together and finance, and, you know, Telefilm wouldn't do it. And, you know, unless we go get private funding, which is hard because who's going to invest a couple $1 million in something that's, you know, risky and now all that kind of stuff. So it is a tough thing, because when you work for a company, there has to be this kind of understanding that you can't just do anything you want. And yeah, it becomes an issue sometimes, but luckily for me, anything that I'm strongly passionate about, like this project that I'm currently working on, which was a book, you know, everyone was behind, and I got to pick up the option and spend some money on that. And, you know, we're kind of getting ready to take it out. Barbara, she brings up Banana Boys. Okay. So as a case study, I'll talk a little bit about Banana Boys. So for those of you that don't know, Banana Boys was a book written by a fellow named Terry Wu almost 15 years ago now, and it became a play. And that play started in Toronto, and then it traveled across Canada. I saw that play in 2010. You know, a lot of local actors, Asian actors were in it. Vincent Tong, Rick Tay, and back east, guys like Simu Liu was in it. So for me, that was the first time I had ever seen Asian guys really depicted as real people. And back then I said, I'm going to make this into either a movie or a TV series. But again, the world wasn't ready yet. So I focused on getting my career going and working my way up so that when the time was right, I would be able to put it together. So that's what we've been doing. We've been putting that together. We've been packaging it. The stage at that show is that we've developed a pilot and a pitch deck, and we're just getting ready to pitch it out to these streamers and the networks. So that's really where we're at. So we throw it out there to the world and show how passionate we are, and hopefully somebody bites. Rob Shaw has a question. I produced my ultra low budget feature. I won't read this out because you guys can all see it. Okay, so you've produced a short. You suck at producing. We all suck at producing. We're all gonna fall. We're all gonna fail. As an example, I tell people that my first short film was The Tea Master. It got Bravo Fact. We got money. I shot it on Red. It was beautiful. It did 20 festivals. That wasn't my first short. I did 3 more before that, and they were garbage, and I never showed anybody. So again, these are learning tools. You're doing these to learn, and this is the great thing about shorts is that you can fail. It's okay. You want to prepare yourself so once you get to the feature side, you don't fail. Now, part of your question is finding a producer who's a good match to help you, move forward in your career. That is a hard thing. Again, like I'm offering myself to try to help people and all that kind of stuff, but I only have a certain amount of bandwidth as well. I would love to be an executive producer on every single Asian feature film out there and help develop every Asian, TV series out there. But I don't have the manpower to do that, and I don't have the time to do that. So if it's something, again, where if I can help give some advice and point you in a direction, I would love to do that. When it comes to finding somebody to actually partner with you and a company to pick up your project to help you produce it, it really comes down to your pitch, your financing, where you're at, and all that kind of stuff. But again, it could be something where you take your feature film and say, hey, this is bigger than what I can pull off. I need help. The biggest tip with that is that if you can get some of the pieces in place, whether it's actors that are well known, a piece of financing, telefilm interest, or something like that, and then you can't bring it to the next level, that's where we like to come in, and we can say, oh, okay, you need kind of the big company to help move your project along. So that's kind of one of the ways that you can get a partner like that. Something you wish you knew when you began your career as a producer. I think everything that I've talked about here is something I wish I knew. Like when to move into features, how to not see the professional world as kind of the bad thing. I want to be the indie guy and I want to know that kind of stuff. Really it's like, the biggest piece was that 15 years, which I forced myself into kind of thinking of 10 years. But it's a long journey. It's a long road. Most directors and writers don't make it until they're in their 40s. And there's a reason for that, is that a lot of the life experience that you need, you got to live it. So how do you live that life while you're making your way up to it. And yes, we'd like to jump the line and do it sooner, but you know, that's really one of the things, is that it's a long part. Hannah Yang, how do I develop my producing and directing career in tandem? That's an easy question. Produce yourself many times, you know, and that's the great thing about being a producer and director, is you don't have to wait for anybody. You know, have the tenacity. I want to shoot tomorrow. I want to shoot next week. You're a producer, put your producing hat on and go produce. That's the best way to do it. The only other advice I have with that is, if you want to be a producer and director, producing yourself is great, but finding ways to produce other people will make you learn more about producing and more about directing at the same time. So think outside of just producing yourself as a producer director, because when you look at all the big producers out there in Hollywood and stuff, they don't only produce themselves, but they produce a lot of other projects. Any other questions? I know we have a few more minutes. What are some of the things you would tell your past producer self in taking the steps towards becoming the producer you are now? Any pitfalls that you want to be aware of? Again, I think I've covered a lot of the stuff that I would tell myself. These are the things that I'm telling you on how to focus your career, how to set goals, how to be realistic in the timeline. Those are really the big important things. You know, setting yourself a target, whether it's I want to be this type of producer or this type of producer. You know, if you want to be a television producer, how do you go about that? Who do you go to? And, you know, where can you volunteer or intern or get hired to learn your way up to the top? That's really, again, I think I've said everything to you guys that I would want to say to myself in the past. Any other questions we have? What advice would you give Asian and South Asian writers with middle film experience seeking to enter developing rooms or work on mainstream productions? Okay, so writers' rooms, that's a big, a very different thing in the industry. To get into a writer's room is very difficult, especially if you're in Vancouver, because there's currently one writer's room in Vancouver. The rest of them for Canadian productions happen in Toronto, and then the rest of them obviously are in LA. It's super hard to get in. I don't even have the answer yet. I can tell you, you know, connecting with people that are in writers' rooms, you know, sending them your material, having them read your material is one way. You know, getting into some of the larger film writing programs, because they do scout out of those. Winning some writing competitions and that kind of stuff are ways. And again, having tenacity. Like there's a great writer that I've worked with, and she got on the show. She has an agent. She has credits. She wanted to get on the show, but her agent kept submitting her stuff, and the producers would reply with, "We're not reading her material." So she found someone that she knows, who knows somebody who knows the showrunner, and she messaged them on Instagram, who messaged somebody on Facebook and said, "I need to get this cover letter to them. They need to read my work." She went through that process. She essentially hounded them until they would read her work. They eventually read her work. She got a job. So that's the example of, it's the same thing as producing. You got to find a way to do it. And that's the beauty of what we do. There is no answer. There's no no. No isn't an answer in our industry. If you get no, find a way to do it. That's my advice on that. Shadowing. Shadowing is a tough thing. Again, like it's becoming more open, and there's becoming more opportunities. It's very difficult, especially for like the network shows. They are starting programs. The only problem is that there are very limited spots, and there are very limited opportunities, and it's just kind of the nature of the business. I think we're going to see more of it. And again, for me, once I get into larger productions and that kind of stuff, I would love to be able to shadow people more and give that opportunity. Again, that is the kind of thing where being connected with somebody who's in a production and that you've made aware that that's what you want to do is really what it's about. Like if you're working down the hall, even if you're a production assistant or you know, whatever, and if you come in and say, hey, I want to be a director, here's my demo reel, if there's any opportunity to shadow, let me know. You've already gotten kind of a one-up on everybody else. So that's kind of an answer on that. Other organizations other than VAF to get involved with when it comes to shadowing, again, it's difficult. Like you can shadow in the indie world by essentially just saying, hey, you're producing a feature, I'm going to come shadow you, I'll be your assistant, I'll get you coffee, just let me sit in meetings, let me, you know, see what's going on. That's really the best way. All right, I guess we are out of time. Thank you for everyone for joining me, and we were concerned that I wasn't going to talk for 45 minutes, and here we are at an hour. So again, everyone's got my email. Please reach out, introduce yourself, tell me about what you want to do. If you've got a resume, a demo reel, a short film, anything, you know, please reach out, say hi. I'd love to meet you. Oh, Lynn, I think you're muted.
That is correct. Thank you. Thank you so much, Aaron.
One seminar without somebody doing that once.
I know, exactly. It's horrible, but thank you. It was so enjoyable. The questions are still flowing in. Sorry, everybody. We do want to share information about the competition itself. So thank you so much, Aaron, for sharing all that insight. Your career path was really, really insightful. I will remember the first 12 to 16 seconds. Yes, so Aaron, feel free to hang out in the green room. If anybody has questions to Aaron, the judge, feel free to ask us as well. Me and our creative producers will tell everybody now about some information on the competition and what's in store for MAMM16, and you will still have a chance to ask questions at the end. So first up, I would love to introduce Joshua, who is one of our creative producers. Joshua is a graduate of UBC Film Production Program, and he's a runner-up of our MAMM14 competition, and he was also in our MAMM9 competition. Joshua loves high concepts, deeper meaning, and slapstick humor with hopes to find his own flair in engaging audiences in alternate ways of storytelling. So he joined us in 2020. So what he's going to do is tell us what's new with MAMM this year. Thank you, Joshua.
Hi, Lynn. Hi, everybody. Wow, that was a lot to say. Great to meet everybody. Great. Thank you for having me here. And thanks for the name drop, Aaron. That was me in the back. Yes, and what is new with MAMM this year? That's a really big question. So, in spite of the unprecedented changes and challenges we have to face due to COVID-19, we did not want to cancel the competition this year, and therefore necessary changes need to be made to ensure the safety and fun for all participants. So first off, we need to select 8 teams out of the 10-minute shorts, and they will receive $500 per team. And there are some conditions that do apply. There'll be some finer print that you can read into later. This year only, registration and pitch submissions are $35 for the 10-minute category and $10 for the 1-minute categories. So that's some pretty awesome stuff right there. You can save some money. There will be a 10-minute shorts and 1-minute ultra shorts category. So there'll be 2 different streams. The 1-minute ultra shorts category will also go through an adjudication process based on a written pitch. So just be aware there'll be a lot of typing for that one. More awards will be given out for more categories for MAMM16. So please stay tuned for that. Here we go. Film production must also follow WorkSafe BC health and safety protocols strictly. So each team must come up with their own COVID-19 safety plan for their teams with the help of the MAMM producing team. So yes, feel free to ask us any questions in regards to PPE and hand sanitizer and all that kind of awesome stuff. You must also incorporate your response to the MAMM creative element, which is past, present, and possibilities, into your video pitch. So there's a lot of creative leeway you can move around with that that theme. The MAMM mentorship program, which we have every year, will be held in the form of webinars. So, yep, no in-person interaction. We're going to keep it very safe. MAMM16 actually is going nationwide. So, you know, Asians out there in Newfoundland, PEI, you know, we're open to anybody all across Canada. So if there are any Vancouverites here, please, you know, let your fellow Asians around the nation know. Any Canadian or permanent resident can lead a team to enter from anywhere in the country. So those are some of the awesome tidbits of MAMM16. Moving on, I would love to introduce Natch 𝐓𝐮𝐫𝐧. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, Natch. Please don't. Please don't kill me. He joined us in 2018. He is a Vancouver-based producer and director, and some of his award-winning projects include Inconceivable from 2017, Cypher in 2018, and Tokyo Lovers in 2018. He's currently producing for Telefilm Talent to Watch 2021. And moving on, Natch is going to tell us about the key dates.
Hey,
Hi,
thanks,
Natch.
Josh.
I'm so sorry. Can you let everyone know what your last name is and correct me?
𝐓𝐿𝐻𝐿, that's how you say my last name.
𝐓𝐿𝐻𝐿. There we go.
Thanks.
I will remember for life.
Okay, so I'm just going to quickly over some of the dates in a second here. You should see some graphic on the screen that's going to list all the milestones of this competition. But basically, you have until the end of the month to submit your project. June 30th is the deadline. Then between July 1st and the 6th, the judges come together and we pitch or review the pitches. And July 7th is when we announce the selected filmmakers. So if you make the top teams, you'll find out on July 7th. 10 days later, over the weekend, July 17th, 18th, we do a MAMM mentorship. So this is going to be an online mentorship program where each team gets paired with a script mentor and learn a bunch of stuff about filmmaking. Mayumi will be going into that a little bit later this session. And you have a few weeks of prep, and August 6th to 15th is your competition period. So this is when you shoot, this is when you edit, and you deliver at the end of August 15th. And the judges have between August 16th to 21st to do judging, and you screen a week later on August the 28th. So it's a very tight timeline, but it's going to be a lot of fun, and I hope you get to submit your pitches because that deadline is coming up fast. So next, I would like to introduce Regina. If you've been to any VAF event, if you attended, screenings, or if you've attended MAMM in the past, she's no stranger. She's one of our co-creative producers, plus the director of the VAF industry panels, aka the 𝐓𝐻𝐿𝐻. By day, she's our PR and media digital content producer. Regina's going to tell us about the awesome prizes and promotions for MAMM16 this year, because there's a lot of exciting news. Hey, Regina.
Hi, Nash. Thank you so much. That's exciting.
Hey,
Okay.
Exciting news for MAMM this year. Tell everyone what's in store.
That's right. So besides that, what we heard about the selected 8 teams of 10-minute shorts, they will receive the $500 per team. But then one more thing, both teams, short teams, 10 minutes, and also the 1-minute ultra short teams, they will also receive credits from multiple vendors for the production. This is new for this year. So getting exciting? Okay, so after you finish, we got selected and then go through the judging round. So what do we have prize for this year? So last year we started up the awards with Best Short Film Award, Best Director Award, Best Performance, Best Screenwriting, Best Cinematography, and those will get some cash prize and industry in-kind prizes. And then this year we'll introduce Best First Time Director Award. So besides that, and we love our friends, right? So there's a People's Choice Awards. So, and your friends come to the screening, and then you can get to choose, and then you pick your best overall shots and best performance. So now I would like to introduce Mayumi Yoshida. She is also one of our creative producers. She joined us in 2018. She is known for Crown Princess, The Man in the High Castle, which she got a nomination for the Best Emerging Actor at UBCP Awards. As a filmmaker, she is currently in development for her first feature film, Akashi, which she will be writing, directing, and acting in. So Mayumi is going to tell us about the MAMM mentorship. Mayumi?
Hi, Regina. Thank you very much for that very generous intro. Hello, everybody. I want to talk about MAMM mentorship. So we started this 3 years ago to help emerging filmmakers make the best film they can. MAMM offers the top selected teams to take part in the MAMM mentorship program. In this program, qualifying teams will join specialized workshops by industry professionals and be paired with one of the professionals as their team mentors. In the past, we've had amazing instructors like Alfonso Chin for cinematography, 𝐓𝐿 for on-set sound, Bob Woolsey for screenwriting, and so many more, and a lot of amazing mentors, such as the Spears sisters, Kayla Wachel, Anisa Visser, Kashif Pasta, Joel McCarthy, Natch, who we just heard him talk, and so many more. So look forward to those. Every year we're going to change up a little bit so that people who are returning have something always new to learn. So I'm excited to introduce all of you guys to that. So back to you, Lynn, our MAMM director, who you guys have already seen. She is a Marcom turned film producer focusing on promoting underrepresented voices. She's specializing in Chinese co-productions and a dialect coach for films and TV such as Meditation Park, Skyscraper, Wu Assassins, Kung Fu, among many others. Hi, Lynn. Come back.
Thanks, Mayumi. Hi, everybody again. I hope this was a great chance for all of you to meet our creative producers. There is actually one creative producer who couldn't make it today because he is now in Japan getting ready for the Olympics. And this is Arnold Lim. And he is a filmmaker in town. And he is, where is his little bio that I have of him? Anyway, he's done amazing films, and his film All in Madonna was actually in the talents Telefilm's Talent to Watch program, and he's also producing a web series, Best Friend Me, this year. So I am back here to tell you about rules. Now, I actually can't cover all the rules because that will take a full hour, but please go to our website and remember to download the MAMM information package, where you will find all the details on eligibility, the rules for the 8-minute teams and the 10-minute teams and 1-minute teams. But I wanted to highlight that all the teams must have at least one Asian or mixed Asian person of heritage in the creative lead positions, and also one lead actor who is of Asian, mixed Asian descent to be eligible. And this other thing always comes up. Each person can only submit to one, can only submit once in each category, but you can submit to the 10-minute and 1-minute category if you have different ideas. So the key creative people cannot submit to multiple categories at the same time. And the other really important thing is that we really need you to adhere to all the COVID safety protocols and submit to us the COVID safety plan for the filmmaking. And for more details, please, again, go onto our website and read all the detailed rules. And we are here to answer any of your questions. So we would actually like to open the floor for questions. And I know we actually have some questions that came in. Did we want to have all our creative producers come on? Or maybe I'll take the first question. Okay, there is a question about, do you hope for an in-person screening this year? So we definitely hope for an in-person screening, and because our gala is going to be end of August, we are hopeful that there can be a screening. We don't know how big a size of the screening, but it's possible that we would broadcast the live event to a virtual audience as well. But if everybody behaves, we're hopeful that can happen. But if things go back to a lockdown or whatever, of course we can't. So we're basically observing all the health authorities' announcements as we go. Yeah. So that's our creative producing puppy, Tiffy, joining us this evening. So let's see if there are other questions.
Yeah, Darian has a question.
Okay. Do you want to take that?
For the 10-minute category, do they have to have a 10-minute runtime? Is there a minimum runtime for this category?
I think 10 minutes is just the maximum.
For the 10-minute category, it is actually 10 minutes including credits. So we don't have a minimum, but there is a maximum. And for for the 1-minute category, we're actually allowing credits to be outside of the 1 minute, because it is really, really challenging. So if anybody has any burning questions, they should take this opportunity to ask us, because it's very rare that all of us can be here together.
Raise those virtual hands, guys.
I wonder if people have started making their pitch videos.
Yeah, and remember to check out vaf.org/MAMM16 for more information.
Darian has
okay.
a question.
I could read that one. What sort of things can help a pitch stand out this year? That's really good.
That's actually a judge question.
I could say like what would stand out to me, but yeah.
We are not part of adjudication. That should be clear. None of us in this screen is not part of the jury.
Should we bring? Are we allowed to bring Aaron in? Yeah, maybe.
Yes.
Aaron can answer that one. There we go.
Hello.
Uh-oh.
Now you're on mute.
I said I finished my dinner so I can jump back in.
Oh, fantastic.
Awesome.
That is a very, very great question about pitching and what can make you stand out. The thing that I tell everyone is just be passionate about what you're talking about. You know, if it's a story that's meaningful to you, just show us that it's important to you, and that's really what's going to make you stand out. You know, a lot of people try to do gimmicks and songs or dances or funny things or whatever. And again, like if you're doing a musical, yeah, sing and dance. If you're doing a comedy, open with a joke. But, you know, really it comes down to showing your passion for the story is going to come through and gonna be the most impactful for whoever's, you know, in this case, judging. But again, like in the future, it's going to be an executive who's deciding on your fate, if they're going to pick up your show or not. And aside from, you know, the content of your show, they are not only picking up your show, they're picking up you. So if you can't show that you're passionate about what you're doing, again, you can be pitching Star Wars and they're like, well, what do you know? What do you care? You know? So that's my advice on that.
That's awesome.
We have a lot of questions that just came in all at once, so we're going to try to tackle them one by one. Yes.
Heidi?
Mm-hmm.
How do you suggest putting together a team if you don't know a lot of film people? When in the process should you do it? Before making the pitch or after? Did we have a database of like the MAMM crew?
So we actually have a MAMM group where we encourage people to post casting and crew calls so that you can actually connect with the community. And it's got hundreds of members that you can start with.
And maybe to Heidi, just to your question there, like putting together a team if you don't know a lot of film people, I think the biggest thing that should be done, I guess, around for your pitch time is having your key creatives together. You don't have to have like, you know, your lamp ops or like, you know, like your grips all together on the crew list so far. But I think the key creatives being there for your pitch is going to be very helpful. So,
and as just so it's clear, because some people may not be film people, so like have the writer, the director. If you have a lead, that's great. If you don't have a lead yet, that's okay. But the writer director is definitely an important key creative.
Mm-hmm. That's a lot of questions.
Which is great.
Who do you pick? Oh, okay. Who wants to read this one?
Natch?
For past mammers, what advice do you have for brand new mammers when it comes to pitches and production? I think it kind of goes to what Aaron was saying earlier, is understand the competition, understand the rules of the competition, what you have to work with, and the resources that you have. Know that, you know, you only have a certain amount of days to film. You have only a certain amount of days to edit and deliver it. Make the best possible use of that time and the, you know, and the crew that you have, the resources that you have. And as long as you're aware of that and you're sticking to the story, you're going to have a great time.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe to add to that, I think it's also important to have like a good schedule set up for yourself, because doing past MAMMs, it's so important to have like those key dates in your calendar popping up, like when and where, because this can get so hectic. You just obviously you can't just memorize it from the back of your hand or inside of your head. So,
and attend the MAMM mentorship that we'll have set up, because, you know, if you're a brand new mammer, and especially if you're brand new to filmmaking, those 2 days are going to be critical for you to learn a lot of the essential skills, to understand the filmmaking process, and for you to ask questions, connect with our mentors. If you have any, you know, questions about any part of the process, we'll be there to help you through.
Yeah. Rob has a question about pitches. Aaron kind of touched on this. Do you guys like fancy theatrical super creative pitches or more business-like pitches? Yeah. Do you want to touch on that a little bit more, Aaron?
Sure. Again, like, you can be fancy, you can be super creative, you know, like those are definitely encouraged. But again, as long as you're showing your passion behind your project and you're clearly telling us what the story is about, that's really what it comes down to. In comparison to a more business-like pitch, you know, this is a creative competition. I wouldn't think of it as a business thing. Like, I talk a lot about the business stuff because I want you to be thinking about that in the future, but you're creatively pitching. You're going in there and telling us why you want to tell the story and why we should get behind this story. Whether it's song and dance or just you standing there speaking, if that's what's required for your pitch, then that's what you do. As long as the passion, that's all I want to see. I want to see the passion there.
Awesome. Jenny Lee Gilmore, when selecting the 8 teams, will you be picking a variety of genres and aim to have a variety of topics? Are there certain genres that are more successful in MAMM pitches? Also, love you all. Thanks, Jenny. Lynn or anybody want to touch on that?
Yeah, I mean, we actually don't. I mean, this is actually more a judge question, but in terms of what we're hoping to see is really just a variety of genres, and every year different genres come in. So there isn't anything specific that that would appeal to us more. It's really, again, down to the story, what you want to tell, and what you want to challenge yourself to make. Yeah.
Yeah, and I can speak to that too. Again, like, to me, this isn't something where, again, like in the corporate world, I'm looking for certain things that I know I can put together. I'm just looking for things that Amazon is looking for. I know Crave is looking for this, and I know, those kind of things. Well, the great thing about this is that there's no, it's not like we have to have one horror and we have to have one comedy. If 8 comedies come in and they're amazing, there's going to be 8 comedies, and maybe there's one that's a documentary style, which would be super interesting, and it's not something that I'm into. But if you can hook me, if you can tell a story that is captivating, I'm going to buy in. So yeah, it's great that there is no prerequisite of what we have to choose.
So the next question: do you need to have a confirmed lead for your pitch before you pitch? Yes, indeed, because during your submission process, you need to let us know who you are. And also, one of the frequent asked questions, people ask what is our key team lead, which is director, writer, producer, and then the lead actor. So those information is also at our website as well. Okay, so next question. What is that? What type of thing we should include it in our pitch besides just explaining? That is definitely a good question, and that will probably be a judge question as well.
Yeah, no, that is a great question, and that goes into learning how to pitch. Like, you can literally Google how to pitch a TV series or how to pitch a movie, and they'll give you a breakdown, and they'll give you advice, and they'll say, look, you want to start with a personal story, then you want to start with how you found the story, or it could be kind of one and the same. Then you want to say what the story is about, and and kind of just go from there. So there's 1,000 different ways to pitch. One of the famous examples of a pitch was when they were pitching the sequel to Alien. They went in and they wrote on the board Alien, and then they added an S, and it got greenlit. But that's a sequel, you know what I mean? Like, there's a 1,000 different ways. There's people that walk into a room and then they stand on the top of the boardroom table and do this huge presentation and knock papers off the table and stuff like that, and it works for them because it was a crazy party movie or something like that. Like, again, there's no right way to pitch. There's guidelines, and again, because of the internet, you can learn, you can study. Pitching is a skill. The earlier that you can learn it, the better, because I learned a little bit, but now I'm looking to pitch to Amazon, and I'm restudying and scrambling and right now, so I'm living and doing the same thing that you guys are going to be doing, is that I have to pitch to these guys who get pitched constantly. So how do I stand out? How do I show my passion? And I think, like, study and learn and talk from the heart. That's the big one.
Great. So last one.
I saw Heidi mention that she didn't get, unfortunately, she didn't get the part about how to put the teams together. So I wanted to take the opportunity to mention that we have a Facebook group for MAMMers, and the link, I believe, yes, right here. Yeah, this is, so you can go to, and thanks, Shun, for putting it in the chat as well. Facebook group is FAFMAM. Okay,
so which one should we get, Lynn? There's 2 of them.
Yeah, there's so many questions. Sorry, unfortunately, we're about to run out of time, so I think we'll take one more question.
Oh, can you mention the theme?
Yes, yeah. Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly the question I was going to pick. So the theme, question from Darren, past, present possibilities does inspire a wide array of ideas. Can we be abstract with this, or is it preferred to be more specific? absolutely makes sense. It is very abstract, and it is the theme of VAF's 25th anniversary year this year, and it allows you to think of your legacy, what's happening now, and forward-looking. And it is a very wide, very vast idea. You can be very abstract in touching on that in your theme of your story, or you could get into specifics on, a story that happened in the past, how it inspired you. That's just one example. I'm not saying that's what people have to do. It could be something very specific in your storyline. It could be something in your props, production design, whatever. So we are leaving it very open for everyone's interpretation. And the only important thing is to explain it in the pitch document when you send in your submission form.
Yeah, and just to quickly touch on that, that's one of the great things that I found with MAMM was that it wasn't handcuffing, and you could literally take it and say, this inspired me to come up with this idea. So that the theme is there, the idea is there, but it still becomes your story. You don't have to make it about the remote control and that song from the 80s and all those kind of things. Like it gives you that ability. And then one other thing that I need to say is that I misspoke, and I guess no docs. Docs aren't part of MAMM. I just wanted to clarify that. Sorry.
That's okay. I missed that myself. Yeah, anyway, it's coming at 90 minutes already. So we had a fantastic time connecting with all of you out there. And if you have further questions, please feel free to write to us at mamm@vaff.org, mamm@vaff.org. We'll answer all your questions. And thank you so much for our creative producers and our judge, Aaron, sharing so much insight today. It was really, really fun. Before we go, I would love for you to follow us on our social media at VAF Vancouver on all the social media platforms. And we are honored to have our founder and festival director to tell us about exciting things that VAF is doing. So without further ado, I will say goodbye and introduce you to Susan Hansen, our festival director.
Hello. Thank you very much.
Hi.
How are you? That was an amazing session to hear. Thank you so very much to everyone and Aaron. Very, very exciting. I just want to share the exciting news. As everybody knows, this is our 25th anniversary year. It is a milestone. It is fantastic. We have so many big things planned. And as Lynn has mentioned, and as everybody for MAMM16 knows, the concept for this year is the past, present, and possibilities. The past is all about where we've come from, and present is where we're at now and how we're going through everything. And the possibilities, what is the future? What does it hold for us? And what does it mean to us as Asian Canadians, filmmakers, and everything else? Anyway, the exciting news that I want to share with you is that our 25th anniversary will be held in November. We are aiming to host a hybrid model of a festival, starting with 4 days live on November 4th, and then following that will be the online portion. So our festival this year will commence on November 4th, and it will go until the 14th. And the exciting thing about MAMM winners is that you will have your films screened at the VAF Festival as well. So as I said, 25th year is a big year for us. All eyes will be on us and your films as well. So for those individuals that are pitching for MAMM16, as Aaron says, make sure it comes from the heart, that it's passionate, this is what you want to do, so that you have the opportunity to have your film selected and to be screened, obviously for MAMM selection, and as well as for VAF 25. And thank you so very much, everybody. And I will pass the screen on to, I don't know who it will be. Will it be Lynn, Regina, or our founder, Barb? Okay, I guess it might be Barb. There we go. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you, Lynn and Regina, Mayumi, Natch, Joshua, Jonathan, who's running tech, and Arnold, who can't be here. Thank you all. MAMM is unbelievable. I can't believe after 16 years how much it's grown. And it's so heartwarming to see Aaron come back. It's like the prodigal son coming back to the fold. Aaron and I met up in Hong Kong, I don't know, 2018, and we had this talk about all the things that we can do. And it's surprising that in 2-3 years that all this attention has come towards the Asian community, filmmaking community. So we really want to make this moment in time. We want to make so much happen in this moment, and it's up to all of you to brush off your scripts, your ideas, and get them out there, because people are looking for it. As Aaron said, people want to hear our stories, and we need to be the ones telling it and not letting other people tell our stories. So I am so happy with what the MAMM team has been doing. And I'm here to tell you about something that I'm always seems to be in a startup mode, but just over a year ago, when the rise in anti-Asian racist attacks were happening, VAF reached out to many of the community groups to say that we would lend our platform to help with bringing awareness to what was happening to our community. And as most grassroots organizations, everybody was stretched thin. So we made a commitment that we would make our voices heard and bring awareness to it. So Eliminate Hate was launched from that date in April, and it is a multimedia project to bring attention and to teach the community how to speak up and speak out. We really don't have the muscle memory on how to talk about the anti-Asian racism that we've experienced throughout our lives, and we've often been dismissed, or it's been deflected or denied that it's actually happening. So what I'd really like all of you to do is to check out Eliminate with an 8 hate.org. We have a partnership with TikTok Canada, and we have launched our project Reclaim Your Name. Many people in the Asian community have taken on a westernized name to try and fit in. Myself, my Chinese name is 𝐓𝐿𝐿, and just to talk about, that's a very good starting point that we've learned, is just talking about your name and unpacking all of that and what we've had to do to fit in or to try to not stand out. But in this moment, we need to stand out, and our stories need to stand out. And that's why come to Eliminate Hate, find out all the great things we're doing there, pitch to MAMM, tell your stories, get your voice heard, because everything we do is a 360 approach about getting our voices heard. If it's for talking about anti-Asian racism, it's about getting stories and pushing our filmmakers and giving them platforms and showcasing them. That's what VAF is about, and that is the beginnings of what we want. Well, that's what I started 25 years ago, is to build a infrastructure, what I call the cultural railway for Asian creators, so that they can lead them into the screen industry. So I really want to thank Aaron. I learned a lot today, Aaron. I've been doing this for a long time, and there's still so much that you can learn by talking to people who are working in the industry. Hit him up, call him. I encourage you all, because he really wants to share his knowledge, and that's what we all want to do, to share our knowledge. So thank you MAMM team, and I'm looking forward to seeing all your films.
Thank you, Barbara, and thank you, Susan. Well, everybody, hope this info session and the bonus talk with Aaron provide you enough insight and confidence to submit your video pitch for the 10-minute and a written pitch for the 1-minute categories. Can't wait to see your pitches. Do that before June 30th and before the midnight of July 1st, yes. We are entirely organized and produced by a group of dedicated volunteers. So it would help a lot if you make a donation at vaf.org. Please remember to follow us on social media and go to our website for more information. And again, thank you so much to our creative producers, Natch, Mayumi, Joshua, Regina, Arnold, and Jonathan. And to all our VAF volunteers who enable all this to happen. Best of luck, everyone, and can't wait to see your productions come to life. Thank you for tuning in tonight.